decided to give myself blood red tag because it's cool.
You should give yourself another promotion.
Not to owner plus. I hate that. No, I don't want plus on everything.
I was going to say
plus
to owner
plus.
diamond.
Owner
square.
double black
You
diamond.
just want me to ascend at this point? You'll need to sacrifice some animals.
And MBS is life.
All of it, just get the rhombus crowd involved.
I don't know what you say. All right, Crimson, get over here.
All right. Oh no. Okay. Hi, everyone. That's how my day is going. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the public portion of the September 2020 General Staff Meeting being held in Illuray. We had a very long private portion, and we're going to have a unsatisfactorily, that's not even a word, the statement of all the results is going to be very short, and this is going to be very disappointing for some of you. And yeah, oh well, too bad. What? I don't even know what's going on in chat. Okay, let's just get right into the announcements. Starting off with moderator nominations. We had a number of nominations coming in. 2 candidates were considered. Both those candidates obviously having at least 2 nominations between them. You guys probably noticed, just based on timing, that we were talking about them for quite a while. There's a lot to discuss with both of the candidates who we considered. The end result was we did actually open a ballot, like a formal ballot for one candidate, just because that's just what was needed in order to have the conversation go forward. But anyway, the end result was the same for both. Neither candidate is being offered a promotion at this time, so we have no new moderators to offer positions to. We may be following up with a couple people just for some very tangentially related things, but at this time there are no new nominations or no new moderators. As a reminder to everybody who is planning on submitting nominations, first of all, thank you. These nominations that we got, we really appreciated the examples and the detail that everybody went into. So we really appreciate all of that. Just a reminder that if you are submitting nominations, that they do need to have good examples. So that, again, this is more for people who haven't submitted nominations in the past or who we had to reject the nominations. Yeah, we're looking for detailed examples of how the candidate would fit the position. So specifically, if they meet some of the qualities on the website, that's awesome. The more qualities that you can demonstrate them meeting, the better. But we can consider nominations that only touch on one category. And when you're including your examples, we really prefer having recent examples too, and specific examples. So that all helps us really well in our decision-making process. So again, no new moderators at this time, but thank you to everybody who submitted them this time around. Nominations do not carry forward, so if you would like to send in new ones for the October GSM, you can do so. Going into section 3, which is our section for redacted topics, we did have a kind of emergency one that we stuck on at the front, so apologies to our media teams for having to deal with the shuffling of the agenda at the last possible second. Nothing to announce from that first one. That was an internal topic. From the second one, which was 3A, that topic focused around a number of different things, but the thing that we are going to make a statement on has to do with the politics channel in Discord. There have been a number of conversations that we've seen in fairly recently that we need to address, and specifically we want to make sure that some guidelines are in place and that everyone is aware of our expectations of the kind of discourse that is acceptable in the politics channel. And so the guidelines that we want everyone to observe, and these all stem from most important rule 1, which is to be kind and respectful to all players, which does apply on the Discord server. Anyway, so the guidelines that we want everyone to make sure you're aware of, and these will be posted on the website. Number 1, free speech on the MRT is a privilege, not a right. Number 2, you can share your opinions and perspectives, but be sure to back up your statements with evidence. Number 3, actively listen and engage with the arguments presented. Do not resort to whataboutism or misdirecting the discussion onto other topics. And 4, and this is probably the most important one for some of you, even if you provide what you think are convincing arguments, do not expect people to change their minds overnight or even at all. The politics channel is really a place for people to share and discuss their opinions. Civil debate is perfectly fine. Just please remember that you are talking with people, and especially now that there are some very high-profile political events going on. Those of you in the U.S., yes, it's election season. Yes, please, for God's sake, register to vote and get your absentee ballots. If you are participating in that channel, please make sure that you are doing so civilly. It's something that we know can be very emotional for some people, and can lead to a bad experience if you're having a bad time in there. Staff, anything else on 3A that I think that's all that we need to say for now.
I
think so, yeah.
Were we going to mention the slow mode, or?
Yes. Staff, just as a heads up, for everybody who is participating in conversations in the politics channel, staff have been given discretion to enable slow mode on that channel if necessary. For those who don't know, slow mode is basically it's a Discord enforced feature that limits how frequently an individual person can post in a single channel, and it's enabled channel specific. So if, for example, you have so if we have a debate that looks like it's getting very heated, staff will turn on slow mode, which will just limit how frequently any one person can post to once every 15 seconds. We may adjust that depending on just the individual circumstances. Please know that if slow mode is turned on, it is not a statement about anyone in particular, or it is not any kind of punishment. Slow mode is just to protect the integrity of the conversation and to hopefully give everybody a chance to actually read what's coming in before posting.
One thing. Would it be possible for me to just post a snapshot of the 4 things that were written out from the private document just into the meeting live channel, because people are asking about that?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. So, yeah, so the screenshot that Volpe just posted, those are the guidelines that we want everyone to be aware of. Okay, that is it from private. It's a very short kind of statement for a 2-hour-long private discussion, but a lot of good stuff that we were talking about in there. So, as always, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end. So if you have questions, now would be a good time to note them down, and then ask them when we get to that stage. All right. Hopefully this public portion will go for. Oh, there's one more additional bit of statements in section 4D.
I'll take over here.
Yeah, Frumple.
Okay.
Yeah, because
so
you've got 5A.
I'll mention both of these actually. So I'm still looking for people to submit their areas for cleanup on the lab world. I am very serious about this statement. If you do submit stuff on that lab world cleanup channel, I will personally do the world edit to clean it up. So if you want a world edit from me, there's your chance. I'll probably keep this channel up for until probably next GSM. If by that point, I'll probably close it because this channel is supposed just to be temporary. But I do really want to just clean up some stuff on the lab world and make more space. The other thing is, and it's crossed out, we were going to do a performance test after this GSM, but because the recent update to 1.16.3, and also we have the Dynmap plugin is not working with that version right now. We're not able to run that performance test. Maybe, possibly next Sunday. So the day after the next TAR session, we might. That's probably the next best time to probably do the test. So keep an eye on your announcements. If you want announcements about beta server, I would suggest you self-assign yourself the beta role on Discord. You can do that in the beta server testing channel. You could just look at the pin message or look at the beta announcements channel for instructions on how to do that. And when beta server is open, you will get a ping when that happens.
Again, that's an opt-in ping. So.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'll go straight to 5A, I guess.
5A, yeah.
Okay. So I want to rewrite the ban appeal section in the rules page because I think there's some inaccuracies and it's also too complicated for a lot of people to understand. The main changes I would like to do is so there in the history of the server, we've had a lot of so-called permanently banned players, and our rule is or indefinitely banned, I guess in this case, and the policy has been always we just give them one chance to give an appeal and that's it. That's the official policy, but in practice, actually, staff have been kind of lenient in some cases. There's some players who did eventually get unbanned after sending multiple appeals, usually like years apart. Like it's somebody from like 6 years ago, and the admins were willing to give them a chance. So I'd like to change that policy to reflect that. The other change I want to make is get rid of the whole distinction, or at least not mentioning the distinction or explaining it between indefinite and permanent bans on that page. There are still going to be some. So just to be clear, I'll define them now. Indefinite ban is what we're going to go with for like this sort of ban. It just means that it's a ban that has no end date. But indefinite bans can still be appealed. Yeah, there are going to be some very rare cases where someone is just going to simply be marked as a permanent ban, and this is just for people who we think simply just don't have any chance of coming back to the server. These are like people who have just caused extreme amounts of severe disruption to our community and server. I put examples on the agenda there. Or it could be applied to someone who just keeps sending in appeals and the admins just keep on rejecting them. So we just want them to stop wasting our time. So, but officially, most people need to worry about is it's an indefinite ban. That's it. Like most bans will be indefinite of that nature. Okay, and so I've listed out what the rewritten ban appeal policy is in that little box there. So instead of just one chance, indefinitely banned players they have to wait 6 months anyway. But after they submit an appeal, and if it's unsuccessful, they can get another chance in another 6 months, and they can keep on repeating until us admins tell either we accept their ban appeal or we just say, no, you're just permanently banned at this point. Stop sending us appeals. So hopefully that makes sense to you people. If there is any confusion about it, please let me know in the Q&A or later in the QA, I guess. But that is what I'm proposing here.
Yeah, I'd say that looks good. I mean, 6 months is a pretty long time. So I think having that amount of delay at least would space things out. So
it seems fine. My only worry with it would be people would put less effort into their ban appeals because they know that they wouldn't. Like currently, people are like, well, I only get one try. I better put all of my effort into it. I know PTLD did that when he wanted to be unbanned. And my only concern of this would be people might put less effort because they know that if they fail this time,
Still
they have
get
other
6
chances.
delay.
6 months is a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That's
it's
certainly true.
It's really up to them. Like I'll just say, as admins, we get plenty of ban appeals that are extremely low effort anyway.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, it's. I don't think it's going to change, and like it really depends on the person. I think that's the most important part. Like some people just don't care, and some people will put an effort in. So
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm fully all
Still
for
6
this.
months. Yeah, it seems fine.
This is fun.
For a bit of perspective, 6 months ago was the start of the pandemic.
Yeah, 6 months ago was basically a century ago, but this is 2020.
PLT or PTLD is wishing to comment on this, apparently.
okay. I'm also looking at Robin's question. Does perma ban also count to those that have been unbanned?
That
What
question
do you
doesn't
mean
make
by
sense.
that? Yeah, you're gonna have to rephrase that question.
Where are you seeing PTLD's question? Because I don't.
He was typing, but I think he stopped.
Okay.
Okay.
It's in forum. Could I comment on this?
Yeah, do it in meeting live, please, not forum.
Again, if you yeah, feel free to try to type the question now. But if you can't get to it now, you can always wait till the Q&A. So
Okay. Unless any objections, approval going once. Approval going twice. Revision approved.
yay.
Okay, 5B. This is something that London has submitted.
Oh, Robin just commented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine that would probably go if you get unbanned and you screw up again. I think it kind of would be a permanent ban, like with no repeal.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it
probably.
depends on how-
That would fit into that narrow case. And again, that's very rare that it's happened. So I'd be okay saying that those become permanent as opposed to indefinite.
But then you have to ask, like,
Confident
what
over
if they screw up so much, but it's like 5 years after they were first banned and unbanned?
Yeah.
Put it in the wrong channel, PTLD.
It would I would say depend on context, but I'd say the default is if they get unbanned and they very immediately do something bad, we usually tell them
Mhm.
when we send the unbanned email, we tell them, you're on thin ice, don't do anything bad.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's really gonna be a permanent ban. So
The usual procedure for that is we will hold that player at either guest or member for 30 days before, like after being unbanned. After 30 days, they will be, for guests, eligible to apply for member. For members and above, automatically reinstated to their old rank after that point. So, but it's like, I would say, if it's within that first month, it becomes permanent. Otherwise, it just reverts to the usual progression. That probably makes the most sense.
I think it should depend on how severe something is.
I agree.
Obviously, we do take that into account to a regard, to an extent. Obviously, if it was for land scarring, I don't think that should, in itself, warrant a permanent ban. But obviously,
Yeah. So I'd say, keeping it as case by case is probably the better way to do it.
moving on.
Camel, what if questions are not allowed generally, except, because it's hypotheticals and most of the time we would deal with that on if it happens. So
It's a case by case basis.
I know that's an
Okay.
awful response, but frankly,
5B?
5B. Okay. Hovercrafts. So for those who don't know, there's a Tom Scott video that explains what a hovercraft is.
Interesting way to start.
Go watch it.
Go watch that.
Interesting way to start the talk, but I think
I
staff can't. I'm sorry, non-staff can't see the comment, but I think it just should counter to boat rules that Doc.
Yeah, I
agree.
And
I totally
makes the
agree
most
with
sense.
Yoshi. I don't think we should be making another rule for some specific type of boat or
same
hovercraft.
here. I'm heavily
I think they should just finish a boat rule.
Same goes. Again, I've commented this, but hovercraft should count as a weirdly shaped boat in the same way that we consider blimps an unusually shaped helicopter.
Yeah.
The only difference though is boats don't go on land, whereas hovercrafts would like park up on the beach. But
I
Yeah,
think,
Yeah, but
yeah,
I mean
the thing
that's
is-
fine. It's just a different parking
yeah,
spot.
it's literally just
It's
a
not
boat
like
with different-
hovercraft like travel hundreds of miles on land or something. It's just
Yeah,
I think
it's-
if we add the caveat
We're trying to
that,
just-
if we add the caveat that, you know, if we are going to have a hovercraft dock, it has to be next to water.
near water. Yeah.
Near
Yeah,
water.
just-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water, just like a boat.
We're trying to avoid Star Wars hovercraft, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So, but in terms of general treatment, hovercraft are allowed. They are treated as boats. Cool.
So
Okay.
is that approved?
Yeah, it sounds like that's approved. Okay. 5C. So I've submitted this in light of we've had a few, and I think a few people have definitely been on the receiving end of this. We've had a few cases where people have emailed in 4K rail waivers, and it's taken ages to get a response, or the reasons why we would potentially deny a 4K response are like not very consistent. And so what I want to do is I want to either, I mean, and Frumple's put in a counter proposal of the procedure, but basically I just want to update our procedures on this, and either with my proposal add a thing that says basically a time limit that staff have 48 hours to raise objections or get additional information or whatever. And if there's no objections after 48 hours, then you're good to go and you can just start building. The other option that Frumple has proposed is that 4K waivers become GSM and ISM items and are approved at that point.
I support.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry,
Go ahead, AP. Oh, I support the first option of just if there's no objections within 48 hours, then it's approved. I think that bringing it to a GSM would just take really long, and it'd make it more than it should be. It's
Well,
just a
it's
quick
a
waiver.
14-day turnaround at most. We do the same. We do that with roads.
And it would be a 48-hour turnaround in the other case. And there hasn't been really many. I just think it'd be.
I mean,
easy to do.
rails are less noticeable than roads because typically
Yeah.
the majority of them are underground and out of sight, out of mind.
Well, it
Yeah.
depends because it really depends because some people don't move it to the right level or build it really high in the sky. So it really depends whether it's more or less obvious.
I'm clear. I'm proposing this as a more of an organizational thing, just mainly for staff, really, because I've noticed the waivers don't get even if they're not at GSM ISM, it takes a few days, even a week, for us to reply to back anyway.
So is that
be
because we
better
don't
with
have any
replying to those?
Isn't
I
that more
think-
because we don't have any specific opinions either way?
I
No,
think
I think it's no, because it's in this weird state where someone sends an email, and we have to wait for a staff to acknowledge it and then put it on the staff Discord channel, and then we can start giving opinions, right? And I find that there's
that's
plenty of delays all over the place regarding that.
that's more of how we've done it in practice, and I think that step is usually done just because no one responds to the email to begin with. So
We should
That's
all
why
be
I'm
more
saying-
proactive with
Well, we
responding
s-
to them.
Well,
that's
when
why
we
I'm saying
say-
you have 48 hours to raise objections in that thread. If you don't raise objections in 48 hours, then the line's approved.
when we say approved, we should have. I think we should still have a staff member replying saying to the person it's approved.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
makes
the word automatically, I think, makes it seem like, oh, if you don't get anything back, it's good. So I think we should
Yeah,
specify,
Yeah,
you
make
need
sure
to
we
at least
gotta
get confirmation.
specify, but
My
Yeah,
only
'cause I
comment is, why are we going 48 hours when trustee nominations, which are arguably a bigger deal, are only 24?
I said
True,
48 because
right?
that hang on, like I can answer the question. I said 48 because that aligns with if we were to do a GSM or ISM item, is that it's a 48-hour, like you have to have things in 48 hours before a staff meeting. So that we have enough time to review them, because like, yes, trustee stuff is 24 and like has to deal with an individual person, but this is a construction project that potentially has a lot more detail to it, like, does it actually follow the 300-500 rule? Is the route like going all over the place, or does the route make sense? Like there's additional checks that we're doing as opposed to what happens with trustees, which is usually the name comes in by email. We're like, oh, this person seems fine. There's been no major issues that warrant a veto. So then we just let it go. And then whoever sees it, 24 hours later, then they just reply all and say that's the person's been promoted. So
Yeah, it's much more common for a rail line to be denied than a trustee promotion. So I think
would
give it more time.
I would counter with, though, given the amount of like road proposals that we get where we realize, oh, this person has not received the required permissions, and like it ended up on the GSM doc and no one saw it up to that point. I think that there is something to be said for considering it at the GSM or ISM, just due to the fact that if you have multiple staff looking at it, it's more likely that we're going to catch those things.
And it does put it in a situation where we have to look at it as well, rather than just ignore it and it will go away.
It
That's a
makes
fair
it more
point.
We
It makes it
actively
more
have to
visible.
prove it.
It makes it more visible, not just for staff, but for other people who can then read the agenda and then see if that line goes even near their town, for example.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
as well, I think it gives guidance for people submitting proposals in future.
I'd also add, though, that a lot of the case when we do a 4K waiver, it doesn't even get built immediately. Like in some cases, it can take a significant amount of time.
well, yeah, same thing with roads.
Yeah, it's so again, I don't think that the 2 to 3 week wait time is really that big of a deal. If it's going to take more than that for construction to even begin on it.
So are we leaning towards Frumple's GSM ISM suggestion?
With
I
what people have
certainly
said, with people's arguments, I think that we should just consider it at the DSM.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'll just say I'm not gonna be too strongly about it. Like, if you guys want to do the 48-hour, that's also fine too.
If you do the 48-hour, I'd want it to be a bit longer to allow for more ample time to look at it and other staff member to go, hey, that's not right.
Would a week maybe work? Like, just
I'd
put a deadline.
I'd say maybe like 72, maybe 96 hours, just double the time.
If we're dealing with a week, then it's not that much more to just wait for an ISM. And like, what happens if the week encompasses a
with it.
GSM ISM?
Yeah,
Do we
I'd
just
rather.
add it? It could be complicated.
Yeah, I'd rather have it as either 48 or at the meeting. Those feel like about right timings.
Might as well do it at the meeting.
Now, I do want to note that in Chief's proposal, it has this thing about reasonably indirect routing. I was always under the impression that 4K applies to the track length, and that way we kind of get reasonably indirect routing out of the way that way. Because, I mean, then, number one, there is an incentive to do the most direct routing that you can, right, if you're trying to get under 4K.
So that was something that I put in largely because we say track length, but there have been a few people who have asked, how do you measure specific situations like curves, like inclines, like switches, all that sort of stuff? What happens if a service switches from one side of the track to the other? How do you measure that? And also, like, how do you know whether, like, I guess it should say, like, what happens if you're right around 4,000, depending on how you measure it. So what I've put there is, like, it makes the measuring process simpler, at least in terms of how to define it. It may allow for some additional rail lines that weren't allowed before. I think that's fine. The main thing is, again, removing ambiguity, and especially in terms of dealing with how warp rail lines are usually built. It's usually the case that the station goes in first and then the tracks are built between them, as opposed to building the tracks along and then plopping the stations down.
But that's not removing ambiguity. Like, if your argument is, well, it could be on the line, I mean, with your method of measurement, it could also be on the line. It could always be on the line because the
you're always going to run into that.
On the go. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
God damn it.
How much is he paying you, Frumple?
He's not paying me anything. Sorry.
That's exactly what somebody who's being bribed would say, Frumple.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, fine.
Your lack of denial confirms your guilt. Wait, no, shit. Your denial confirms your guilt. But if you weren't to deny it, that would also mean you were guilty. Yes.
Anyway, go back on topic. Go back to the topic.
Yeah, rail lines.
I think that the track length is much less ambiguous, because if your argument is, well, this reduces ambiguity, track length is much less ambiguous than reasonably direct.
I think because I don't know. I feel like reason direct I think is it's very up to the opinionated. While like if we do have since 4K is just a hard number, and I think I forgot who said it, but I think if the limit is 4K, I feel like people aren't going to most likely take the most reasonably direct route either way, just because that will save you blocks, so you don't have to approve a lot.
Reasonably direct is definitely up to personal opinion, pretty much. Whereas,
I mean, like Chief has kind of say the A45 was a railway rather than a road. I would say the A45 route is reasonably direct. I think the problem with going with track length, I always like to go for realistic rather than direct. That's just my personal way of doing things. I worry that going just on track length, people are going to just build underground tunnel and just stack it, or go directly in the diagonal, which is hundreds of pistes. And I'm pretty sure most staff here will have done that at least once and been quite annoyed.
I
just don't think that's necessarily true, though, because I mean, if you look at the different rail companies build their tracks differently,
Right.
and some do sacrifice, just the sheer amount of effort that they have to put in. Like, if I'm going to use Otto's curves on RailLink as an example, right? That's a choice that's a stylistic choice that he's made for his rail company to make his curve length the size that it is.
I will add that both Otto and the HVT have also brought up that they do their tracks first and stations, which could make it even harder to calculate.
Okay.
I think how in past, correct me if I'm wrong, the calculation has been from end of station to end of station.
Yeah, in the past it's been along the tracks. So yeah. Okay. So it sounds like we would just leave that part as it is, and the only thing that we're changing is the timing of responses.
Are we going to go through the for the 48-hour or the GSM proposal?
I don't think we've decided that yet.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. There's pros and cons to each, right? So I do realize, yes, if it's at GSM ISM, it does mean generally a longer time for people to wait. And I don't know if people are happy with that.
But on the flip side, it is more like in the flip side for a GSM, for ISM, there is more scrutiny.
There is more scrutiny, more visibility, and more likelihood that your thing will actually just be considered. So
is
there's
it
also
worth
a higher chance of coordination because you'll see the rail line of other companies and you would see what's going in that area.
keep in mind, Kitty, it's not every 2 weeks. It's usually every 2 to 3, generally.
even so 2 a month?
Yeah.
It's less than
One every
4 weeks apart.
Do you want to try the 48-hour thing and see how it goes?
I'm concerned with, as someone brought up about sometimes we don't see until it gets to the meeting that they don't actually have the proper permissions.
Yeah,
we could end up inadvertently approving that.
I think a requirement would then be to state all the permissions you would need. Like, if you don't state all the permissions of all the towns we see the line going through, it's denied automatically.
Well, and I think that would, I think that just needs to be a case of staff need to be active in their email, and if you see a proposal come in that doesn't list that, then you can ask for them to list that off. So, and that if you ask for more information, that stops the 48-hour clock. So
He says staff don't always need to handhold players on permissions. That's their responsibility. I'm not sure if I fully agree with that, because there is some part of blame on staff for missing stuff, and that happens.
And we also want to avoid the chance of players being angry with us and being like, "Hey, this is going within 300 blocks of my town. I didn't approve it. Like I have like the rules say that I have to approve anything coming within 300 blocks, and I didn't see it." So.
I guess what I'm concerned about is like if something flies under the radar, the 48 hours passes, and then a week or so later we end up seeing like somebody complaining about irreparable damage done near their town that just wasn't noted. I think it is why that scrutiny is so important. Like if we fuck up with a trustee period, we can just revert the promotion, and we have to deal with the anger. But with this, it's irreparable damage to a town's environment.
Well, depending on what it is, we have to put rollback.
Crimson Desert Line is a completely different circumstance. In this case, whenever I built it, the radius was correct. I'm not sure how this applies to this scenario.
It doesn't. But what I was trying to say is that's why I think we require you must list the permissions you need. You have, and if you don't have all the permissions, or you don't provide that list, we just reject the proposal outright.
But in some cases, they miss a town they're passing by
so they can resubmit it. But I'm saying we shouldn't have this like stop the clock, start the clock, stop the clock, start the clock. We should just reject it. You can resubmit it.
So no, specifically when I say the clock stops, it doesn't restart. Like it's just the 48-hour thing would only be on the initial response. So we have 48 hours to raise initial objections or ask for additional information. If either of those happens, the whole thing stops until that gets resolved, and then it'll be manually approved. The 48 hours only applies if nothing happens after 48 hours, then we would reply all saying there's been no objections, this is approved.
Yeah, I think we should take it one step further and just outright deny if there's a piece missing, just so that it streamlines the process for staff. If we're trying to streamline this process, which is what it sounds like we're trying to do, we should just say if you don't have the form fully correct and everything's there, then that's it. You have to resubmit it.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Kitty's in agreement. Other people are still typing.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
That's fine, yeah.
Crimson's asking if we would post these in notifications.
I think that's okay.
That could bring more scrutiny to the plan. Like, says, "Wait, I didn't approve this nearby."
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also, again, I would hope people don't do this. But there is the possibility of people faking a permission. But I would hope most people don't do that.
We've never seen that.
If someone tries to do that, they get warned.
We've never seen that.
Potentially double warned.
Were you going to say something?
I was going to say, sorry, I've kind of lost in this conversation and was wondering what is the final decision on what we're doing.
The decision is, the consensus is moving towards go for 48 hours. If they are missing, like if we know that they've missed a permission or if they completely omit the permissions list, then it's automatically denied and you have to resubmit it.
Actually, if we're going to do this, what similar to how trustee promotions work, we have the form. Maybe I need to check whether Forms lets you do this, whether Forms lets you upload an image. I would hope it does.
It does, but it's weird in terms of Google Drive permissions and stuff. So yeah.
I was going to suggest having it so people submit to this form. All the questions are required, so permissions required, all the map required, maybe a short description over elevation.
Yeah, AP, there's a number of similar things where having a standardized web form would be useful. I think if we wanted to do it right, it would be a little bit more work than what you're talking about. But Yeah, like that does make sense, but I think for now, just doing it by email is the best way to go, and then just
Yeah, that's fair.
manually make sure that that's all good. So. Okay, so sounds like it is that the measurement method is staying the same, so it'll stay measured based on track length. Staff have 48 hours from receipt to look things over. If you're submitting, make sure that you have your complete permission list on that list. If your permissions are missing completely, or if you forget someone that we know is along the way, then we're going to respond and say, no, you need to go back and get this permission and submit again. If you
like just a minor inquiry, like I'm not actually sure where this map is. Can you give coordinates?
I would.
Sorry, what?
Let's say that it's not clear on the map where in the world it is. So I go and
Oh,
coordinates. What happens then?
yeah, I would say that's a quick back and forth that would just be like that.
To
I
decide.
don't think that would deny it outright if it's.
But then we'd have to define what would is a quick back and forth, etc.
I'd
Okay,
say
so
deny because you don't understand it's not that's also
Okay.
not clear. I'd say.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw a wrench into this. What about 4K waivers that are combined with IITs? What do we do
If
there?
it's combined with something else, we've handled it by just saying that becomes a GSM item, just because they get handled all in one go. Same with inactive town bypasses.
Okay, so it has to be just like pure 4K waiver.
Yep. And that's how we've handled it before. If there is
IITs are
something,
so if an IIT is bundled in with the email, then it just goes
or a bypass,
Goes
yeah.
to a GSM instead of to the automatic system.
Yep. So no change there. The only change is if it is a pure 4K waiver, the map is detailed enough, and the permissions list is there. After 48 hours, then we'll be like, you're good to go. So you have so staff have 48 hours to object, basically. Okay. That sounds good. Cool.
Funnily enough, despite the massive topic on transit, there aren't actually any transport projects at GSM.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. Okay. 5D. This is.
The question then would be: we currently have two 4K waivers we actually haven't responded to. Do those 48 hours start now, or what do we do with those?
I'd say we'll start those clocks now. And
okay.
Yeah. Okay. 5D. This seems okay. So the question that this is asking is defining where the border of a town is for the purpose of the 300 and 500 block rules.
I know members can't see comments, but I agree fully with Gods' comment on this, basically saying it's pretty much we can't really accurately define a town's exact limits, but we should.
No matter how we
So-
define the town's exact limits,
just
someone's
summarize.
going to use it.
So to put that out from my perspective, it's incredibly difficult to accurately define it because, for example, if we say it's the outskirts of any infrastructure, someone could build a road 1,000 blocks and all of a sudden that's in their bubble. If we said it's the closest building, they could just put a building every 300 blocks and that isn't really contiguous. So there isn't really an easy way to define it. The reason we put this on the agenda is, from my perspective, I just want to turn this slightly because currently the rules sort of say it only applies for buildings. And I'm wanting to ask, should we just widen this so the 300, 500 encompasses any construction like rails, canals, etc.?
Well,
I mean, it already does. I think just clarifying that in the rule text is probably a good idea. Like, because we require permissions if you're within 300 when you're building a rail line.
Well, hold on. The problem with if we let's say someone here's an example. Let's say someone builds a really long road, like it just juts out of the town. Like, do we count that as part of the town?
I think it's going to have to be self-judgment in that if it was as pure as that, probably not. But what sometimes we see is there's almost two halves of the town with a bit of a road in the middle, which is where it becomes vague.
Where's the line between people having different districts and having green space and having and genuine separation? We don't know.
So from my perspective, it's probably easier to keep it vague and for members to just play it safe. So if they think it could infringe on the 300, 500, just go and have a chat to the mayor. And if they're having massive issues with it, then you can speak to one of us and we'll get involved and have a look.
I
Sort of,
agree
yeah,
with
it's not
Gods
the
on
arbitrary.
this.
Hmm.
I agree.
I don't think we should be putting in specific things. I think it's more of a case by case type thing.
Especially because every town is so different.
Yeah,
Mm.
people to have different development styles. People,
Yeah, just having
What is-
communication with the mayors is very important.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
what the 500 block rule is for. Is
As
if
I
you're
said,
within
the majority of mayors aren't going to have a problem if you have a chat with them first. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
if you are having massive issues and you think they're over claiming area, then yeah, you can have a chat with us and we'll make an assessment.
So
Okay.
judged on a case by case basis.
Yeah,
So
so
back to
sounds-
the other question then. Should we open up the definition of the 300, 500 to include any new infrastructure rather than just new buildings?
Wasn't it already this way?
It
So
already is.
the way it's worded on the rules is that it's only new buildings.
Let's
I-
see.
If we
Sorry.
Oh, so you want to change that to any new construction?
Yeah, any new infrastructure, any new construction, anything like that.
Yeah.
may I speak?
I don't
Go
think
ahead,
we should do
go ahead,
that
Volks.
because
So I think if we are to do this, I think we should also probably specify things that are absolutely not counted. Like in my absentee ballot, I did mention, as God said, that a random road jutting off in the middle of nowhere is almost certainly not a valid border. So if we are to again open the rules up to infrastructure, we should outright specify if there's a road that just shoots off away from the town, that doesn't count.
But then what if there's one building at the end, and what if there's two buildings at the end and something?
I mean
I
that won't
think
count
it's
either because we have the rules on significant claims where you need to have like a little cluster of buildings before it actually counts as defendable
Yeah.
my opinion is
territory.
I have
really
also
play it safe, have a chat with the town mayor because the chances are they'll be
I think,
accommodating.
again, this is a case
And if
by
there's
case
massive
basis
issues-
type thing that
I would
really
be
can only be evaluated
on board with,
that way.
with changing the definition with what Mega said. Significant development.
Yeah,
So-
that's fair.
It has to be a completed building.
one other
Um,
thing to posit though. What if terraforming? What if there's a road somewhere to an area that's clearly terraformed but there are no buildings? Like in the case of Strasbourg, there was this road leading into the town. There are no buildings, but there was some clear terraforming done around the area.
That's a good
That's-
point. And in the case of like Grey Cloud, like Castle's made huge amounts of terraforming and such, and technically there isn't really much other than the terraforming. Like, but you wouldn't say that someone could just build a town in the middle of Castle's terraformed canyon or whatever.
Because I think the castle's idea of that is building a national park, which you could say is significant in itself.
Again,
but
this-
technically, under the rules, there's no buildings, so you'd have.
Well, again, this gets back to the fact that every town is going to be different, and there's no
Exactly.
one size fits all definition for significant development. So it's going to
But-
be impossible
Yeah.
to define it in a way that covers what we want.
I mean,
think we
look
can-
at other corner of the world, Bahia. In obviously, most there are a lot of small towns around Bahia with significant terraforming.
And I think the term significant development, I think as a minimum, a few buildings, completed buildings, we can use as a baseline. There may be cases where, there's no buildings or there's something else there, like a canal or terraforming. But I think we should. I think we should try to define at least some baseline in the rule and say it in the rule.
Perhaps for in the case of infrastructure, I know this isn't a specific definition, but infrastructure that is specifically designated as intercity does not at all extend claims. I.e., I can't. I.e., using the A45 as an example again, it would be completely. It would not be good and I don't think I should be able to claim a whole 600 meter wide swath of land around the road.
There's
The problem with-
there's two parts to this rule, AP. There's the part of the rule that basically tries to answer the question of what land does it apply to from the standpoint of making a claim? And then there's the side of the rule of what kind of construction do you need to respect that claim for? So like what kinds of new stuff do you like? All right, I guess a better way to ask. So the first one is, when are you allowed to defend a claim, so to speak? And the other side is when are you allowed, or when are you required to get permission or notify under this rule? So they're different questions. They're related, but they're different.
I think if we go with God's on this, we take it on a case by case basis. Maybe obviously if there's a significant impact on the landscape, I could say. If there's obviously significant impact on the landscape, then do not claim there or get in contact.
Yeah, I would say, if it's enough development to be considered significant under that, under the 2-week rule, and it's clearly part of a town, then it can defend a claim. As for what builds need to respect existing claims, right now we generally say any new infrastructure. So that would answer God's question, and then we would change it from any new buildings to any new construction.
Because you could loophole and say it doesn't apply to A roads and railways, even though it does.
Well, new A roads and rails being built need to respect existing claims. They don't constitute full 300, 500 claims in and of themselves. Does that at least make sense of where that? Okay.
I think we also need to keep it fairly simple because obviously this is the 300, 500 block rule is mentioned on the member app, so we don't want to overcomplicate it for guests to try to interpret.
I mean, I don't think there's any major changes that we need to make other than saying new construction as opposed to new buildings. And then just for us to know that for for the weird fuzzy cases where you're not sure, that then we should step in and be able to mediate if necessary. But I would agree that erring on the side of caution is your safest option.
If you're not sure, just talk to people.
I think
most people are willing to work with you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for this is just talk to people. What the rule means in spirit. Just talk to people, please.
Yeah.
So to summarize then, we aren't putting a specific definition on town limits, but we will open it up to all infrastructure.
We are saying any new construction needs to respect existing claims. We're not changing what counts as a claim.
Okay.
That sound good?
All right. Sounds good to me.
7A.
Okay, we skipped 6 because that got pulled. 7A, MGA Champions League.
Seems all right to me. Prize pool isn't very big, so.
This is MGA. They know what they're doing. Low prize amount. I'm fine
Done
with
this
this.
a bunch of times.
Rubber stamp.
Seems fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Before.
Any objections? Going once? Going twice?
Nope.
7A approved. 7B video contest.
Oh, and it will finally happen.
Yeah. Hold on. I had to actually open the document.
Frunkle, you get to defend yourself now.
Always.
Time for personal attacks.
It's these are contest rules. I posted them previously before. I will say the prize amounts. I guess we could go with them. I am considering it an alternate prize thing, but I didn't get time, unfortunately, to write it out here. But I was thinking, and you can tell me if this sounds like a better way of voting and giving prizes, is instead of the MRT Vision style here, what do you guys think about having different categories, just like kind of like the Oscars or Academy Awards. So things like Best Picture, Best Audio, Best Cinematography, Best Acting, or something like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to it, but
Cool.
it probably depends on the numbers. If you have
I
four
agree.
submissions, if like each in their own
Mm,
category,
yeah.
it wouldn't really work.
Based on the survey, there are 18 people saying that they will participate. I'm just out of generally people do drop out, so let's cut that in half as a just a safety measure. So 9 people, and there's also the fact that some people might some people might work on multiple submissions, and some people might work together on one submission.
I suppose the other question is, would things necessarily have to fit into the same category? Because best cinematography, for instance, could apply to any submission.
Well, there's going to be generic ones that I think every submission would go into, like, again, best cinematography, best picture, stuff like that. And then I think there are some categories that we would define in advance that if you were applicable to it, that then you would do it. So that would be the genre specific ones. But
best documentary or best humor.
right, best comedy. So
Along those lines.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
But I do get this. I do understand. Yeah, we might not be able to get enough submissions for this to work. So I'm just throwing this out there. I'm just more a little worried that with the MRT Vision style ones, it does tend to shift it towards the winners, right? Whoever gets the most points, and then the people who get it basically lumps it toward like the prize amounts toward that. So by doing categories, it may spread out the prize money a bit. So at least so for example, the best video or the best picture won't necessarily get like best cinematography or best audio or something
And
like that.
limiting it so
Question.
each award, so, maybe limit it so each award each video is only eligible for one award. Well, or each video can only win one award. Sorry, go.
I'd
it's
rather just let it go for as much as you want. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all going to be voted on independently.
a really good video that actually like takes best picture, best audio, and other awards, then so be it. Like,
I do have a
see-
question actually. So there's a hypothetical type, like, what if it's a video per se, but it's more so just a voiceover with a still image? Would that be eligible? Like, would you be allowing people to submit that?
there's no restriction on what kind of videos it can be.
So it could
As
just
long
be
as
an
it's-
audio recording with just an image. Okay.
Yeah, it goes on
Yeah.
YouTube. It counts as a video. Is it a good video? That's up to the audience to decide.
If you're comparing that against actual animations and actual live action, it'd be tough. It'd be tough to do it.
However,
Yeah.
I think
I'd say you could
submit it, but good luck getting anything out of it.
So I'm fine allowing it. Okay, so I want to bid flex. I want to let this sounds like a great idea, and I hope that it goes well. I want to at least allow for flexibility just based on numbers and things. So I think like if depending on numbers, if we do go the categories route or that sort of stuff, I think there's a number of different ways that you could do the prizes, but like I think
if I decided to change it to categories, I think I would resubmit at least a little amendment for future meeting.
Okay.
So at least you guys know what to expect. But if we don't do that, then we're just going to go along with what's here right now.
Yeah, I'm fine with this as it is, but then if you want to switch over to the categories, like I think just a quick amendment of the prizes, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
So we're going with if you want to know categories, you want to go with the ones we have currently on the doc, and then if there are categories, then resubmit is what we're saying.
Resubmit specifically prizes. The rest of the contest is approved.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when I I'm not sure when I'll make the decision though. Like, we could just go with what we have here, and then maybe we can wait till the future, see how this goes, and then do categories maybe at the next video contest if there is one. Right?
Yeah, as I say, there's a number of different ways you can do it. So I think I think like this version, I think we can say approved, and then if you want to switch out your funding model, then we can give it a look at a future meeting. But
pull the rug over the like under people, right? One thing I'll note, I don't think it's written on here, is I think I will have some sort of pre-submission form just to get a better sense of who is going to submit what videos, so we get a sense of how many submissions there are. So you can expect that probably, I guess, toward the end of the month, before the contest actually starts. Also, people could start working on their videos now. There's nothing stopping people from doing it. So technically,
yeah, I mean Yoshi does. Yeah, the rules for MRT Vision are that there's a kind of intent to submit form, and you have to do that first, and then like you can take your screenshot of whatever, but you just can't post it publicly.
Yeah.
So
for the video content, it's more important than ever because we really want to know how many submissions are there. Because right.
Yeah. So yeah, having a pre-form is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, now the meeting channel is getting completely sidetracked. All right, I think this looks good. So let's move on to 7C, London's pub quiz.
Immediately, my concern is with each question will take approximately 10 seconds, a time what you won't be able to comprehend answer and cheat. My problem, my concern with that is one, it's quite not enough time to type for a lot of people, and two, if people have internet issues,
Is London here right now, or
yeah, London's
okay.
here. I think. I think it's. I mean, with the issue with the lag, I can see where you come from with that, but you can only do so much in regards to that. In regards to submitting answers, I mean, is there any reason you want to use a book and quill? By the way, I'm just wondering, rather than just like either PMing you or writing it, or like writing it in like DMing you is probably the easiest way. Is there any reason you want to use book and quill specifically?
Yeah, PMing is going to be the fastest way to do it.
but it's probably most difficult to keep track.
Well, I mean, you just set a timer, watch the notifications come in. If anything comes in after your timer goes off, then that's disqualified.
But again, that disadvantage, particularly for people who are particularly for people who are dyslexic or
Okay, London says to
type.
PM him with questions. So
the only thing with that AP is like I mean, the thing is that it being 10 that bad because you posted in chat. Like, you put what would be the best thing is to post the question in chat. 10 seconds starts when the question is posted. Stop the time once 10 seconds elapsed. And while people who are lagging may have a small disadvantage, you can only do so much. Like if you see, for example, like in MRT Vision, the Maze Race, some people may have a slower laptop. Somebody may crash, but we can't really do anything about it, to be completely honest.
okay, I've just posted those questions to London. So
one thing is a bit that I'm thinking of is that the prize money. I mean, it's for a first time event that we don't know of the interest in. It's a bit high. And I say somebody who has been asked to help, like with the event.
$1,000 for winning does seem very steep. For 6, okay. So 6
there's
rounds of 15
75 questions. No, 75 questions.
Do you know how many people you are expecting to partake?
Just write that down. You can't hear very well,
sorry.
apparently.
Yeah, he says that the PM idea might work. Says they can do it solo or in pairs of 2. That doesn't answer the question.
$10 to $12.
Okay, 10 to 12. So that would be potentially 5 teams.
Actually, we want to clarify. Does he mean 10 to 12 people or 10 to 12 teams? Because hold on. Then
You're also
probably-
asking what the issue about books are.
The issue with books is that they're a lot more cumbersome to write, and that like dealing with them in a time limit situation means that there's a much higher chance that someone's answer is going to be disqualified just because they were taking a while to type. It's much faster to just PM your answers, and it excludes people who are in who aren't in Minecraft.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a computer that can't really handle Minecraft plus a voice client at the same time, like it's much easier to just have one app running for some computers. So just leaving it as PMs limits the chances of something going wrong.
The thing is,
London says 10 to 12 people, not 10 to 12 teams.
the thing is with
AP, you're really far away from your mic.
there has to be some element. With the Amazing Race, you don't know people. There's no way of seeing if people are using Dynmap. So.
That's why he's got the short time limit, though.
Yeah,
Wait.
because you don't want people to just be able to Google the answer.
Question. If he says 10 to 12 people and there's, there's fifth place prizes for the player and team, wouldn't that just mean everybody gets a prize except the sixth place for $25?
It says 25 participation.
Yeah. I feel like, again, for the amount of people and I think that is definitely a bit high.
I'd want to, with those kinds of numbers, I'd want to see prizes reduced a little.
I'd be in favor of just bumping everything up, so the fifth place prize becomes fourth place, second place becomes first place, and with everybody else still getting the $25.
So I mean, effectively the same as just cutting them in half.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that pretty much.
Okay, so sounds like we're leaning for half bid, half prizes, for the placing. So participation stays at 25, and then otherwise use PMs, but otherwise it give it a shot and we'll see how it goes. Sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
One other question, I'm just curious to what questions you'll be thinking of doing. Will it be MRT related, or will it just be anything and everything from sports to science to politics?
So it says 2 categories are MRT related. The remaining 4 rounds are something else. So
gotcha.
So I think it'll be just kind of general trivia. So
okay, that sounds quite fun. I might try and get involved with that then.
Okay, cool. So approved, funding limited, and with that one condition if the rules change, otherwise good to go. Okay, 7D MRT Sumitory Championship by Elite.
Elite's here for comment in case we have any. I don't think there's much reason for it. It's a really low prize amount, and there has been similar events in the past. So
200
I
bucks.
think it's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, it's
That's
underneath
fine.
Valkyrion, and Valkyrion's probably gonna be helping run it anyway. So
Yeah, Sumitory is an established thing, knows what it's doing. Low amount, no worries. Go.
Yeah.
Be gone. 70.
Approved.
70 Spleef Tournament.
Sasha
This
is here.
Okay. This is asking for $1,100. No sponsors. Just looking like it's just a pretty standard single elimination bracket split tournament.
Sasha, if you're listening, I would suggest maybe giving a unique name for your spleef tournament, because there are also other types of, like the Major League spleef and other types. So just give it something. It could be just named after your town or something, but give it a name. It'll also help attract people to your event, because they'll know what they're talking about.
I think this is his first time hosting. I'd maybe just suggest maybe getting somebody else who does know this thing to help you out, as this could make the event go a lot more smoothly instead of just unless you feel confident doing it yourself.
I'd say, the only potential question that I would have is what are numbers looking like? Oh, Kyle's interested in helping. Okay, great. So
The other question that was I think that Nacho asked is, would you be using kind of MLS? Because I know obviously Spleef can get complicated. MLS I think has a set of rules. Would you be using those rules or just kind of their own separate rules?
Right.
Okay, 7 interested so far, so that these look reasonable under that, I would say. Maybe
What
a little
are the,
adjustment, but not too much.
what are the prices for MLS like?
They're higher, but it's like a whole
More
season.
people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
So-
like this is in line. It's not entirely outrageous. It might be a little high, but it's not entirely outrageous.
And I'm assuming this will take a few hours. I'm assuming this will take a few hours over one evening. So yeah, I'm happy with it.
Okay. Did we answer the question of are we following MLS rules or?
Yeah, I just want to double check. Are you following
I never
MLS?
did.
It's kind of like if you don't know MLS rules, MLS is Major League Spleef. It's kind of the major spleef organization that's on the server. It's not on it's not on a season right now, but it's basically there's if you look up in the wiki, there's like a set of rules that are there.
I mean, if you don't know what MLS is, then you might not know what the rules are. Okay. I would say before you start advertising, it would be good to solidify the rules, but I'm fine approving this in principle.
Not clear, Sasha, did you understand my comment about the naming of this event?
Oh, working that now. Okay.
So
Sure,
approval
that-
pending rules.
The name or the rules? Which one are you referring to? Sorry.
Yeah. You're going to name your event, basically.
But, you can name it after your towns if you want to host your town. It just makes it so it's different.
Okay, I'll type it out, Sasha.
Personally, I'm thinking like just with how the inexperienced new event, we should also open to possibly like if it does go absolutely horribly, we could lower the prizes down. But
that
I
we
don't
can
think
always
that'll
do
be
that.
necessary.
Again, I'm fine approving this in principle. So.
oh yeah, I think that this as is perfectly fine.
Okay. So it sounds like approved just for convenience. It'll just need a unique name.
We can work on that with Sasha. We can work on that with Sasha afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So approved, funded in full.
And I think
That's it.
not with a
That's
bang,
it,
but with
we're
a
done.
whimper. We're done.
That's it.
3
I'm gonna
hours, 23 minutes late.
hang on. We have the most important part of the entire meeting.
Oh boy.
Oh,
The cast,
it's
Oh, I
trustee
forgot
time.
This.
the cast of the podcast, Well, There's Your Problem, is nominated for trustee. Viewers like you, thank you, are nominated for trustee. Trustee status is revoked from all members of the Bobby Gammer fan club. Sansa's fantasy football team is nominated for trustee. The deceased cowpig from Operia is nominated for trustee. Make the trustee meeting mass broadcasted instead of the GSM. The Marina Shuttle is now trustee. Make Hendon senator by the end of September. Make Prismarine senator in 3 days. The Marina Shuttle is renamed to the Marina Shittle. Make a potato garden in Cyprus. Extend the plane line to Prismarine and Caravaca. Replace Premier with trustee. Build a giant croissant building and give it to all guests. Build a Mac and Frank memorial in Totem Beach. Get all trustees to endorse the Circle Zeta line. Extend the Marina Shuttle to all towns on the MRT. Get Interrail to be evil. Get Prismarine Express to be very evil. Pablo is the official bee of the trustees. The bee is the official animal of the trustees. The Postal Service will get full funding. This motion passes. Prismarine Express is not evil.
So this motion literally just said this motion passes.
Yes, and it passed.
Oh, good. Okay.
Have you
What
got
if
a
it was
copy
like
of that somewhere?
Yes, I have a copy of all of them in the Bowabic library. So it's already on a podium in Bowabic.
for such a long private portion, I'd hope the trustee meeting would be more.
I'm
Sorry,
surprised they cut it
productive.
that short.
I'm hesitant to call it productive.
Right, now for the
All right,
fun
question.
bits.
Okay,
Q&A.
it's question time. If you have a question, please post it in the meeting live channel in Discord. Post it in /e in Minecraft. Or if you would like us to unmute you, then ping me and we can unmute you.
And for our viewers on MBS, if you want us to ask a question, you can send that in our YouTube live chat with your Minecraft username. We're only accepting questions from MRT members.
At that rank, just to make sure that they're aware that that they're on thin ice. That also aligns with the timing of a single warning. So so effectively, you come on and you're at kind of a special status. So then once the 30 days is up for a ban appeal, then you're automatically promoted back to your regular rank. Yeah.
Skelly's asking about the politics slowdown. The politics slowdown will be for 15 seconds each, and Warski, it would be to give people time to take in information and actually think about what they're messaging first.
I would say it's 15 seconds by default. Even like if it turns out that the debate is still like, going crazy and that's not that's not helping the debate, then we could increase it, but the default is going to be 15.
This question, the dates of the video contests are on the document. Please read through it. It's scheduled to start 1st of October and run, or at least submissions will be open 1st of October until the middle of November, and then we'll vote on them toward the end of November.
Pi, about the Bobby fan club, that's a trustee meeting question. You can ask that of Skelly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, if you have questions about the motions that get made at trustee meetings, please ask Skelly, not us. Because Skelly is the one who presides over those meetings.
Yes, but the trustee meeting is serious business.
Mm-hmm. Highly important. Okay. Any other
trustee
questions?
meeting itself said the trustee meeting was serious business.
I still want to censor this trustee meeting, so I think I'll be proposing that in the next GSM.
Oh, that's another 2-hour private portion then.
No, that'll be a 2-hour community issues.
Other questions?
Cody, please do not submit world edit requests by right now. I know you want your world edit, but please hold tight.
Please be patient.
Yes, exactly, Kitty. 2 hours IIT.
I wish to IIT the trustee meeting because when has a player ever called trustee meeting logged in?
That might be it.
Last call for questions going once. That's not a serious question, Janji. Going twice.
Camel's typing. Nah, never mind.
And
Going 3 times. Last call. This meeting is now closed. Thank you, everyone.
Freedom!
Leave. Be
Leave.
gone.
For our viewers on MBS, thank you for tuning in to our live coverage of the September 2020 General Staff Meeting. We'll be live in a couple weeks with the September ISM, and we'll be live next month with the next GSM. Also be sure to check us out next week, where we will be broadcasting the second session of The Amazing Race Live. From MBS News in Illinois, I'm Kitty Cab 1231, and thanks for watching.